100 matches, the 20 had become 2. The Sydney Entertainment Centre rang with the chants and cheers of 10,344 fans as Australia and New Zealand came together to determine the new world champions.
And Australia will certainly be asking for another big game from ace shooter Vicky Wilson. Katrina Wagg will be helping to feed her. Sue Kenny is unable to play through and a foot injury is keeping her out. So in comes Shelley O'Donnell. Carissa Dalwood at 21 is the youngest of the Australians. Michelle Filkey, the skipper, put in a most impressive work rate last night, and beside her is goalkeeper Keely Devry. New Zealand posed a shooting question yesterday by Julie Carter's poor performance, but she's in there again with Tracy Earl. 29-year-old Joan Hodson is wing attack. Sandra Edge is the compulsory choice at centre. Lynn Parker is the coach. Has been for 3 years. We're ready for a start. Carissa Dalwood will make the first centre pass. A smile from her, but she's got to be all nerves.
Well, the first World Championship for many of these Australian players. And what a game in front of this big crowd to play the reigning champs, New Zealand. Great opener from Wagg.
Well, the nerves have really got to be tingling out there. That's a good settler for Katrina Wagg.
Strong defence from the Australians. Nearly the held ball called against New Zealand. Mamiya Savage very quick to establish what's acceptable.
The umpires, of course, come from neutral territory. And the atmosphere here is really something special. A lot of Kiwis in the crowd. I've got about half the tickets, we reckon. Joan Hodson, the wing attack for New Zealand, is happy to continue. Sore finger, sore hand, but she's all right. Earl into Carter.
And Steve, it'll be very difficult for the players to hear the umpires call, particularly in the pressure moments of the match. They'll really need to concentrate.
Tracy Earl yesterday shot 65%.
And a magnificent shot to open for New Zealand.
A minute gone, one apiece. Filkey called for the contact. Edge into Carter.
And the break to New Zealand. What a shot from Carter.
A lead of 2 coming if they can convert this possession. Earl.
And the pressure from the Australians on the transverse line. O'Donnell and Wagg pressuring Tamanu, the New Zealand skipper.
Carter was out. Australia's ball. Keely Devry hurt an ankle yesterday. Couldn't play the final quarter. All right today, but devastation for Sue Kenny. The Australian vice-captain unable to play with a foot injury. It's Australia level up at 2-all.
And Steve, that's an impressive opening from all 4 shooters, each of them able to put their first shot through cleanly. That's very good under the pressure of a World Championship final.
Wilson quick to pick up the spill.
And the goals running with the centres. Tracy Earl made her lead into Keely Devry. Australia with the penalty.
Dalwood, McInnes.
And there's not much space out there on court. Both teams having difficulty with a clear run.
Spare a thought for Shelley O'Donnell, the Australian wing attack, who came on under great pressure yesterday when Sue Kenny went off, but played a magic game.
She was very impressive given the pressure of that match against Jamaica. They lost nothing in the transition, but as you say, tragedy for Susie Kenny tonight.
Call against New Zealand gives Australia possession. McInnes, Filkey, O'Donnell. Dalwood.
They're not able to find their shooters easily. The 3-second call comes against Carissa Dalwood. New Zealand defence working overtime in that circle.
Dillamore, the New Zealand keeper, had to go and fetch it. Hodson.
Carter finding good space behind Filkey. Caught out of position at the top of the circle.
New Zealand ball, Earl to bring it in. Leonie Lever yesterday came on to replace Carter. So Carter is under some pressure to fire in these first 2 quarters, 3 apiece.
Yes, Carter hauled after a 38% quarter against England. But the stronger combination for New Zealand is on court.
Wilson.
You saw then Vicky Wilson changing leads with Katrina Wragg, so they vary their attack. The turnover to Australia.
Dalwood, O'Donnell, Wagg had to get up. She's got a lot of elevation. The Australian shooters have a little bit of a height advantage over.
A couple of goals dropping short for Vicky Wilson. She can test the rebound, but Dillamore up there.
I was going to say height advantage over Tamanu, but not Dillamore, who's the tallest on court.
Well read, Michelle Filkey, but the toss called by Mamiya Savage, and the crowd doesn't like it.
Filkey and Hodson.
And it's a battle on the ground. Wagg comes away with it.
Too much height. 2-on-1 on Wilson.
Well, the umpire's making an impression in the opening of this quarter.
Well, as long as they're consistent, the players can't ask for anything more. Carter.
And no Australians backing up the rebound for their circle defenders. New Zealand will get possession.
Edge, the vice-captain.
Contact on the ball against Devery.
Filkey caught by surprise. She was left out of the circle. Thought the call was going to go to Australia. 4 apiece. Australia's centre.
Nice
Wagg.
turn from Wagg.
Misunderstanding between O'Donnell and Wilson. And at the end of the day, one of those might be enough to decide the World Championship. Tamanu to Edge. 2 of the 3 New Zealand players who featured in Glasgow 4 years ago.
Earl drags it in for New Zealand.
And Earl was the other one.
Keely Devery again attracting attention from the umpire. I saw very little in the contest, but I guess I'm pro-Aussie.
New Zealand ball.
Another contact against Filkey. She's drawn several from Mamiya Savage. And that's a break. New Zealand with the centre have the chance to take it to a 2-goal split. Well, that's a brave move to go over Keely Devery, but they place it well. Won't drop for Earl. This time the penalty to Australia.
Yes, against Carter. Contact against on Filkey. McInnes. Dalwood. Wagg.
Good hold from Dalwood. She saw the congestion in front of her.
Carissa Dalwood hit the deck. She ran over Shelley O'Donnell, actually.
Well, they had a smile about it. You'd expect it to come the other way.
Seven minutes gone. There's nothing in it.
Oh, great placement from Wilson. New Zealand caught napping, concentrating on Wagg. Filkey with the ball for Australia. Along to Dalwood. She looks behind the play and finds Wilson on the baseline, undefended.
New Zealand looking to equalise.
I don't see that as a replay, but we've been critical of that ruling all championships. The break for Australia.
O'Donnell, Wilson.
And again, Australia making good use of the baseline.
Wilson shot 78% against Jamaica. They need her firing today.
And she's
so
opened
far,
up with 6 from 8, so a good start from the Aussie shooter. Chance for her 7th. Great shot.
Australia with the biggest lead of the game. Don't expect it to last.
Devery will mark Earl to keep her away from the pass. Earl doing well to drag that one down between Filkey and Devery.
Well, Filkey and Devery are taller than Earl and Carter. So any rebounds that the New Zealand shooters get, you know they're really doing their job. Wagg. Wagg yesterday shot 77% against Jamaica. Pulled in by McInnes. Australia by 3 on the break. McInnes, dangerous lateral ball. Filkey, not allowed in that goal third.
Oh, well read, Dillamore. Great intercept for the New Zealand goalkeeper.
Carter to Edge.
Carissa Darwood has a huge job in her hands containing Edge, but she's doing well in this opening quarter.
Yes, as we've acknowledged more than once, Sandra Edge, regarded as the world's best centre. But Darwood against Jamaica was one of the best on court. We could say that about 7 Australian players, I think. Wilson, back to O'Donnell. Darwood and Wag.
Oh, well done to Manu. Lacked the height, but she got up to the ball. Tamanu drawing the penalty against Wilson. Pulled in well by Louisa Wall. It looked beyond her.
Hodgson back to Wall. Wall, the youngest player on court at 19.
And the defence is frantic from Australia. They're really working hard to shut down the Kiwis' space. Nice ball from Edge.
5.5 minutes to go, and the Kiwis bring it back to a difference of 1. 5.5 minutes left in the first quarter.
Well, irrespective of your loyalties, you have to appreciate this is the world's best netball on court.
Hodgson looking for a way to Earl.
Back to the transverse line for the attack to reorganise. Edge with the ball.
Carter.
Equaliser.
Darwood. These two teams evenly matched tonight and down through the years, back as far as 1948 and since. They've had 38 matches, the two countries. Australia's won 19, New Zealand 17.
And great defence from New Zealand as they hold up the Australian attack and eventually come away with the intercept.
The third stat in that match breakdown was 2 draws. Edge to Hodgson.
Well, I guess that history could be closer, but let's hope it's not tonight for Australia's sake.
Tracy Earl.
Pressure shot from Earl. Takes the Kiwis to a 1-goal lead, and the centre gives them the chance to make it 2.
Hodgson, Carter, and Earl.
Drop short. No, just makes it. Centre being cleared so that the centre pass can be retaken.
New Zealand timing their first quarter run nicely. Under 4 minutes left in this term. New Zealand by 2. Into the corner for Darwood and back to Wilson.
Wilson finding that space on the baseline behind the zone.
McInnes. You don't get many intercepts from Edge. They better treasure it. Against Dillamore.
Tamanu caught in a 2-on-1. They'll find Wag easily on the baseline.
Back come Australia, 11 apiece. 3 minutes left, first quarter.
Well, the Aussie crowd loving it. I know there's a little redhead in my house with a homemade streamers who's been told to cheer on every Aussie goal. She hasn't mastered Aussie, but she knows when they score.
Wilson.
Drop short. The touch from Dillamore, but Darwood's there.
Wilson again. Australia back in the lead. Australia by 1, 2.5 minutes to go first quarter. Straight to Carter. She should equalise.
And Steve, if this is first quarter is any indication of the game ahead, you'd be a brave person to predict the outcome.
We'll all be horse in 45 minutes. Filkey, Darwood.
Well, they say when you watch, you play everyone's position.
Wag. Lost sight of it. And it wasn't well directed.
A couple of times that press from New Zealand has caught Australia with a misfeed.
Filkey and Carter to have the toss-up. Nalia Savage to set it.
They're both quick on the toss. I'd hate to predict it.
McInnes.
And hasn't she been strong for Australia? She's been our pick as best on court a couple of times, and what an opening from her. Often the bridesmaid sitting on the bench for Australia, but she's come through these championships beautifully.
New Zealand defence again solid around the circle. Wag from a long way. Dillamore from the back. Tamanu to take the pass mid-court.
And takes her time collecting the ball to settle her team. They'll be aware the clock's counting down. Important perhaps to come off the first quarter with the lead.
Filkey the intercept. McInnes.
And Louisa Wall runs at it.
Crowd doesn't like the call. Thought Filkey was should have got the free pass.
And that call was up to Mamiya Savage. It was in her half of the court. All Redpath could do was acknowledge the throw-in.
Crucial call goes against Australia a minute out from quarter time. Wall to Carter. Earl.
It was a good hold from Keely Debry, but still she draws the obstruction call.
And New Zealand out by 2.
They'll be working overtime to shut down Australia so that they can't drag one back before the break. Wilson out of the circle. Wag trying to draw space. Oh, and a bad contact against Tamanu, mistiming it.
It was unintentional. The timekeeper's up. Wilson. They'll be glad they got that one.
Darwood rushes it back in the hopes New Zealand will take the centre. Edge throws it away. Be interesting to see where the time was up before the release.
An absorbing first quarter. The lead swapped a number of times. It's everything we hope for. And at quarter time, Australia 13, New Zealand 14. So they're set for the second quarter. There are the stats, Anne, and New Zealand, through Earl, slightly the stronger in shooting.
Yes, but you couldn't really fault any of the shooters on court. If you're getting up to the mid-70s or over in a match of this pressure, you'd be very pleased. Wilson, 10 from 13. She's taken most responsibility for Australia. And as you said, Tracy Earl, a very impressive 9 from 11.
New Zealand have put up 18 attempts to Australia's 17, and they lead by 1, so it's reasonably logical.
And I was worried Mamiya Savage was going to call mishandling, as we've seen her call before, but the contact on the ball went in favour of Australia. Wilson the chance to equalise. And that was against New Zealand's centre, so Australia with the chance to take it to a 1-goal lead.
O'Donnell. Wilson. Dilly Moore in front of her.
Darwood to Wag. She'll find O'Donnell, who pulls it in well at the top of the circle. She places it behind Wilson, but she manages to drag it in, and another one on the board for Wilson.
It's at the other end with New Zealand. Tracy Earl. Keely Debry must step out of play. 15 apiece. Touch over a minute gone, second quarter.
And once again, we see this game pretty well running with centre possession.
The defenders are getting hands on it every now and again. Nearly held ball by Wilson.
I agree, very close, but it's one on the board. You can see Joyce Brown screaming at her team to keep moving. There's nothing worse when the press comes out if you start to stand on it.
A call went against Julie Carter. Australia need to convert this possession for a lead of 2. Wag, Dalwood, O'Donnell.
Contact against Wilson. She doesn't like the call, nor does the crowd.
This time against O'Donnell. Waitamanu takes it. Down to Hodson. O'Donnell. Wilson. Great ball from O'Donnell across to Dow.
Wilson wide, but she doesn't mind the long shot. She won't get a chance, so Wag out of play. Dillamore. That Steve, she said she'd rather the focus be on the game than her. I think that's a sign of a great skipper.
Well, she's talked fairly freely about retiring after these World Championships. O'Donnell.
O'Donnell moving well through the zone.
Wilson.
And again, the Kiwis focusing on the front shooter. Wilson finding space on that baseline. McInnes onto O'Donnell. Wilson. Wag across to O'Donnell. She finds Wilson uncontested on the base.
Apiece.
Steve, I'm beginning to think we won't see more than a goal separate these two teams all match.
Australia by 1. 4 minutes gone, second quarter. There isn't a spare seat in the house, I can tell you. The scalpers were outside before the game, doing a roaring trade. Tamanu.
Oh, keeps it running, but Darwood's there.
McInnes, O'Donnell. Through to Darwood. Wilson jumped well, unattended at the post. Australia by 2. She loved that pass.
And look for this pass from Darwood. She looks to the back, finds Wilson. Also, Edge's speed, very deceptive. And that contact from the back position will go against Devery. Oh, with a chance. She equalises.
5 minutes gone, second quarter. Still nothing between these teams. Darwood can't believe she threw it straight out.
She hugs the hair. She'll work hard in defence now to get that one back for the Aussies. O'Donnell tries. McInnes tries, but the positions from behind are very difficult to come away with. They usually draw attention from the umpire. Carter with a pressure shot. Oh!
New Zealand hit the front. Straight to Keely Devery.
Well, badly misread Earl's move, but Devery doesn't care. She'll have that one.
McInnes. Everybody's got to be running because the defenders are working so hard.
New Zealand will want to close off the base a little more. They've been found too high when they've been playing off the player.
Rebound from Dillimore.
And she's the height in the circle, so if there's going to be a miss, expect to see her up there on the rebound. Toss between the two centres.
Edge and Darwood.
Oh, good
Edge won it, but only to Ag.
Oh, that was a quick-held ball. I didn't get a chance to look to see where the outlet was going to be.
The game is fast, but not that fast.
I think that happens as the game gets faster and faster, so does the umpire's whistle.
O'Donnell.
Chance to rectify it now, Australia.
Wag takes the one step in. That'll miss.
They're never on target. Dillimore, though, caught out, top of the circle.
Against Dillimore, so Darwood.
She'll take the safe front option. Wilson makes sure.
20 apiece. 7 minutes gone, second quarter. Wag to Wilson. Might shoot from there. And she contacts Dillimore. Dillimore 187 centimetres. Touch taller than Wilson. Tamanu doesn't handle cleanly. Wilson away from Dillimore.
It's a safe bet.
Dillimore's taller, Wilson's quicker. Edge. Played it off a foot. She's got a brother in the New Zealand soccer team. Carter. Against Darwood. Hodson to take it.
Hodgson trying to clear space so she can take the penalty. I think she means contact wing defence. But New Zealand will take it anyway.
Yeah, so confusion in the call sometimes. I think Sheila Redpath calls that way.
Yeah, it's not the norm.
New Zealand bench. Lynn Parker there. Beside her was the Silverhead manager, Monica Leggett.
I hope you haven't got that Kiwi pin on that you scored the other day for a missed call.
I took it off. I was only made to wear it for a day. Wilson. Six and a half minutes left, second quarter. Hodson cleans up. Lewissa Wall, Tamanu.
Onto the ball, now they find Earl. Carter puts up the hold. Oh, well done, McInnes. Sensational stuff.
Away come the Australians. Fast break, Wilson.
Great stuff, Australia.
They needed to be merciless and were.
Watch the brilliance of McInnes onto the ball, juggles it, hauls it in for Filkey in the fast break from Australia. They won't stop this passage.
It's with Dalwood in the corner. Wilson, Wag. Must be against Tamanu. Hit the forearm of Katrina Wag. Offloads to Wilson. Australia by 3. Their biggest margin of this quarter. And there are 5.5 minutes left till half-time. Oh, Dalwood got up.
Well, she tried to get there, but I think she might have climbed Edge's back a touch on the way.
Yeah, it would have been a lovely mark.
Yes. You can't fault the effort, though, out there.
From either team. This is 100% stuff. Carter.
Pressure shot for Carter.
Well, nobody's letting their teams down, Anne. I think everyone's playing to their potential. This is a real test of just how good the teams are.
Well, this would go down as one of the best ever matches of netball anybody's ever likely to see. The crowd's certainly getting their money's worth.
Dillimore the rebound from front position. Had to be. Wall, Tamanu.
She'll stop and settle the New Zealand attack. Obstruction called against Shelley O'Donnell. Louisa Wall will take the penalty for New Zealand.
Contact penalty, New Zealand.
And just incredible pressure in defence from both teams. There is not one uncontested pass.
Tracy Earl.
Flawless shooting from the New Zealand duo. 6 straight for Earl, 4 straight for Carter.
Against McInnes, New Zealand with possession here can equalise.
And again, Tamanu making use of the time as a settler. She'll come away from Wags to clear the arms. Good pressure from Katrina Wag.
And good call by the umpires there.
Devry trying to fake the held. Oh, good shooting, Tracy Earl. 6 straight. You see Devry experimenting with whether to lean or jump. She sat back off that one, trying to force the held ball and then get up at it.
Wag, O'Donnell.
The baseline from Wilson. Dillimore again caught lacking on that back move.
O'Donnell had eyes in the back of the head. She was running away from Wilson, but she knew where to send the pass.
And watch New Zealand suspect again on the baseline. Dillimore caught lacking on the back move. Great ball, O'Donnell.
McInnes, meanwhile, has made another invaluable intercept for Australia. Here she is again. Melbourne player.
Oh, Dillimore.
Oh, it's gone against Wilson.
Wilson doesn't even step up to the mark. She can't believe it.
Edge. Carter.
She'll play it around to get closer space.
Contact penalty, New Zealand.
Tracy Earl flying off the back court, but she's on now, and with the shot. First miss for her in the quarter.
So a turnover each. And Australia by 1.
Oh, held ball call.
It had to be held because O'Donnell had fallen over in the centre third.
Contact keeper, passing shot.
It's against Devry in the circle.
She's still marking the ball. Now it's very difficult for them to hear the umpire's call.
Contact or defence.
I think Filkey isn't giving 100%. She knows this new floor quite well. Two minutes to go to half-time. Against Tamanu. McInnes comes up to take it.
Australia with the 2-on-1 advantage in the circle. They'll be quick to get it in. They've lost the advantage now, but O'Donnell will find Wilson.
I suggest anyone with a we can't leave right now. Hodson. Edge.
I don't know how Hodson found Edge at the top of the circle, but that was well played.
New Zealand.
Hodson, a former captain of the New Zealand touch football team. Devry to Filkey to Dalwood.
Wilson Wall reads it.
Yes, against Wall.
It was worth the go from Wall, but the timing not there.
1:20 left in this
Help
second
ball.
quarter.
Well, the pressure is just incredible from both teams. I think we've seen one fast break play the whole game.
Earl.
Good
Across
ball
the
to
edge. Keeps it in.
Contact attack, penalty Australia.
Contact call against Carter. Devry will take the penalty for Australia. Under a minute. Australia trying to make it to the lead, but it's through Filkey's hands.
Got it back.
Oh.
O'Donnell, what an effort.
I couldn't see anybody within Kui that could get to that one.
She swooped on it. Tamanu put the hand out. Mishandled, but they get it back.
New
Now
Zealand will be
it's
steady.
time for the equaliser. Earl, under pressure, doesn't miss. I hope they're watching the clock, Australia. Maybe 30 seconds left. Wilson. Well, now the Australians have got to try and defend, because a goal for New Zealand here would give them the lead at half-time. They don't want that to happen.
Tamanu lifts to the circle, too long. Contact against the defence. It's exactly what Tamanu was looking for to draw the penalty. New Zealand will take it in half-time. She has to wait for time to be called in. Earl with the pressure shot. Yes!
And there is half-time, so what a pressure goal for New Zealand. Well, I don't know how both these teams...
And what a quarter from Carter, although not involved with most of the shooting, 100%. Good given the pressure. Tracy Earl very much on target for New Zealand with 9 from 11. They're the high scorers. Australia 12 from 16 for Wilson. Wag not entering that quarter very much in a shooting role, 1 from 2.
Held ball against New Zealand this time, and Rosalie Jenke, the new player on court, to bring it in to Filkey. Tough on Jenke to slip straight in halfway through a championship final.
And contact against Filkey. Interesting, it's difficult to read that switch with Devry. You have to either think that Joyce Brown thinks it can be a little more closed back in the circle, or perhaps the injury bothering Devry. Very difficult to tell from a commentary box.
Rosalie Jenke not quite as tall as Devry as the long bomb sinks, and it's New Zealand by 2. Australia's centre pass, though, Dalwood.
McInnes with the ball, struggling to find an Australian in free space.
Wilson. Lewis Wall gave Dalwood the tiniest of nudges, but picked up by Sheila Redpath. Wilson.
Drags one back.
He'd be a coach on a day like today.
No, Joyce Brown and Lynn Parker can have this one.
Tamanu.
And Steve, it's not even a matter of months of preparation. Both countries would have been looking at this since 1987, developing players. A culmination of a 4-year period.
Tracy Earl.
Gives it a shake to get Jenke up in the air.
New Zealand by 2. 2 minutes gone, third quarter. O'Donnell.
She hesitates in putting it to Wilson. There's a lot of congestion at the front of the circle. Dillamore nearly with the intercept.
Lucky for Australia, it came off her hands. Wilson had stepped out of the way. It was misread by the Australian attack, but Wag.
Advantage goal will be called. Good take by Carter off balance.
Edge. Dangerous ball to offer up to Earl when Jenke and Earl are the same height, but Jenke gave away the contact. Out it comes, Filkey. Australia's ball. Interesting call.
New Zealand delegation screaming their support for the Kiwis, the Silver Ferns.
Jenke did well, under pressure from Earl. Dalwood, McInnes, O'Donnell.
And contact again.